Namo Ramana. A very warm welcome to all the devotees for the Raman Kendra Delhi Sunday Satsang. I would now request Narayananji to initiate the puja. Narayananji.
Om Chidaya Namaha, Om Mangalaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha. Utlam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashvanam Chaturbhujam Prasannavatram Dhyaye Sarvabhignopasanteye. I am Murta Samusar Dos Bando Mandono Karando. I am Murta Samusar Dosto Adeva Laganam Sadinam Tadeva Arabalam Tandravam Tadeva Vidyabalam Devabalam Tadeva Lakshmi Patete Tengrikam Smarami. Om Bo Om Bua Om Suva Om Maha Om Jana Om Tava Om Satyam Om Tatsavadharvavanyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Yo Yona Prajodyat Omavajutra Samdham Murmasuram Mamopata Samasta Durga Satvarasi Paramesi Pityatam Karishyamanisya Karmana Nirvegrana Prasadatatamado Vigneswaram Jankarshye Pritviya Merup Turulisi Sudram Jantagormo Devada Prithvi Diyatrida Logajetam Vishnunatruda Vamsatarimam Devi Vitram Gurusasanam Agamartum tu Devanam Kamnatum tu Rakshasam Andarvam Karam Yadav Devadavanalanjanam Namopata Samasta Durga Satparasi Parameswar Pityatam Nurveda Siddhyatamado Vigneswar Pujam Karshye Ganaranta Ganapati Kamavami Kaving Kavina Umasutramam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspade Anusunam Visadam Asmin Archana Bimbe Mahaganapatim Dhyayami Mahaganapatim Avamayami Om Mahaganapatiye Namah Asanam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatiye Namah Argyam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatiye Namah Padyam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatiye Namah Asminim Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatiye Namah Upasarikasthanam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatiye Namah Snananandaram Asmanim Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatiye Namah Vastradatam Akshadam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatiye Namah Yajnova Vidartam Akshadam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatiye Namah Gandhan Dharayami Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatiye Namah Gandhovari Akshadam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatiye Namah Alangaranatam Akshadam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatiye Namah Ritra Kungumam Samarpayami Om Mahaganapatiye Namah Pushpai Bhujayami Om Sumugaya Namah Om Ekadandaya Namah Om Kapilaya Namah Om Gajagarnagaya Namah Om Lambodharaya Namah Om Vigadaya Namah Om Vignarajaya Namah Om Vinayagaya Namah Om Dhumagedave Namah Om Ganatakshaya Namah Om Balachandraya Namah Om Gajaranaya Namah Om Bakragundaya Namah Om Surpagarnaya Namah Om Erambaya Namah Om Skandapurjavaya Namah Om Siddha Vinayagare Namah Om Shankara Moksha Vinayagare Namah Om Atupura Vinayagare Namah Om Mahaganapatiye Namah Nanavida Parmada Patra Pushpani Samarpayami Dupartam Samarpayami Deepatam Samarpayami Akshadam Samarpayami Om Bhurvuvasvava Prasodharvavanyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi यो न प्रचोदयात् देवसवितप्रसवसत्यं दोलेन प्रसञ्जामि अमृतं स्वं स्वाहा ॐ प्राणाय स्वाहा अपानाय स्वाहा ज्ञानाय स्वाहा उदानाय समानाय स्वाहा ब्रह्मणे स्वाहा महागणपतिये नमः महागणपतिये नमः नगरसंविद्यं समर्पयामि मध्ये मध्ये पानीं समर्पयामि अमृतोपतं उत्तराभूतं समर्पयामि कर्पूरं समर्पयामि गणानां मवामि कविं कवीनामस्तक्रमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मस्पदयानस्मृतिसिद्धानं महागणपतये नमः महागणपतये नमः महागणपतये नमः कर्पूरं समर्पयामि नीराजनं समर्पयामि नीराजनानन्तरम् आसमनीयं समर्पयामि ब्रह्मणे स्वाहा महागणपतये नमः महागणपतये नमः महागणपतये नमः वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा गणपति प्रसादं मनसा करोमि ओम भू ओम सुमुंजन ओम तवं सत्यम ओम तत्सुत्रवर्ण्यम भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् ओम ज्योतिर्समृद्धं अमोपात समस्त दुर्गा शतवारासि परमेश्वर चित्तम शुभे शोभने मुहूर्ते आद्य ब्रह्मण द्वितीय प्रार्थे त्रिवेदे वराह कल्पे वैवस्वत मन्वन्तरे अष्टाविंशतितमे कलियुगे प्रथमे पादे जम्बूद्वीपे भारतवर्षे भरतखण्डे मेरो दक्षिणे पार्श्वे सगात्ते अस्मिन् वर्तमाने व्यावावृके प्रभवादीनां नवमी तृतीया संवत्सराणां मध्ये शुभकृतुनाम संवत्सरे उत्तरायणे वसंत ऋतु चित्रै मासे कृष्णपक्षे नवमी तिथियां शुभदितो भानुवासरयुक्तायां श्रवणनक्षत्रयुक्तायां शुभनक्षत्र शुभयोग शुभकर्ण एवं गुण विशेषण विशिष्टायाम् अस्यां नवमी तिथियां शुभदितौ मम जन्मपापस् जन्मप्रति एतच्चनपर्यन्तं मध्ये सम्भावितानां सर्वेषां भावानां सत्य अवनुनातम् अस्माहं सहकुटुम्बानां क्षेमसद्धर्य वीर्य विजय आयुरारोग्य ऐश्वर्याणाम् अभिवृद्ध्यर्थं समस्तमङ्गलाभ्यर्थं समस्तदुर्दोषशान्त्यार्थं रमणमहर्षिः प्रसादेन ज्ञानवैराग्यसिद्धार्थं श्रीरमणमहर्षिः पूजां करिष्ये तदङ्गं कलश पूजां स करिष्ये विघ्नेश्वरं यथास्थानं प्रतिष्ठापयामि भवनार्थे क्षेमाय पुनरागमनाय स कलशस्य मुखे विष्णुकण्ठे रुद्रसमाचित मूले तत्र सिद्धो ब्रह्मा मातृगुणे समृद्धा कुशौ तुषाग्रा सर्वे सप्तद्विभा वसुन्धरा ऋग्वेदो यजुर्वेदो सामवेदो प्रधर्मण गंगे से सैन्य गोदावरी सरस्वती नर्मदे सिंधु कावेरी जलेस्मिन् सन्निधं कुरु अंगैः सहिता सर्वे कलशाम्बु समाचरिता आयान्तु देवपूजार्थं दुर्दशकारगा तंबूरा सागर उत्पन्नो विष्णुना विष्णु करे देवेश पूजिते कुरिये पांचनी नमोस्तुते देवो देवालय प्रोक्त जीव देव स्नानन अंजान निर्माल्यं सोयां भवने पूजयेत् ओम सकलगुणात्म शक्तियुक्ताय योगपीठात्मने नमः आधार सत्य नमः मूल प्रकृतिये नमः आदिवराय नमः आदिकूर्माय नमः अनंताय नमः पृथ्व्यै नमः आदित्यादि नवग्रह देवतोभ्यो नमः दश दिग्बालेभ्यो नमः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देव महेश्वरा गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः ओम अस्य श्री प्राणप्रतिष्ठा मंत्रस्य ब्रह्मा विष्णु महेश्वरा ऋषिरेकजित्साम धर्माणि संधांसि सकल जगत सृष्टि सदि संहारकारिणी प्राणशक्ति परादेवता आम बीजम हरिं शक्ति क्रोम कीलकम प्राण प्रतिष्ठापने विनियोग आम अंगुष्ठाभ्यां नमः हरिंदर्जनिभ्यां नमः क्रोम मध्यमाभ्यां नमः आम नाभिकाभ्यां नमः हरिंगष्टिकाभ्यां नमः क्रोम करतलपुष्टाभ्यां नमः आम हृदयाय नमः हरिं सरसे स्वाहा क्रोम शिराय वसट आम कौसायम हरिं नेत्रदाय वसट क्रोम वस्त्रदाय पट पूर्वस्वर दिग्बंध ध्यानम रक्तांबोधिस्त बोधोलस तरुणसौडकराक्षे पासम गोदंडम दिक्सुत्व मणिगुण पंचबाणात् विप्राणसु कमालंतरेण सदा पिनवसोरवट्या देवी वाला लोना बहु सुग्री प्राण शक्ति प्राण ओम आम हरिम क्रोम क्रोम हरिम आम अम यम रम लम मम सम सम्म हम सोम सोम हम सस्यामुतो जीवदुष्टुदो अस्यामुतो सर्वेन्द्रियाणि वाङ्मनस्व सस्तोत्र दिव्या प्राणवाक् पाणिपाद वायुभूस्तानि या कस्ति स्वस्ति सुखं सुरं तिष्ठन्तु स्वाहा ओम अस्य श्री प्राणकृष्टामृतस्य ब्रह्मा विष्णु महेश्वरा ऋषिरेखि सामधर्वाणि संतांसि सकल जगत सम्मारकाणि प्राणशक्ति परादेवता आम बीजम हरिं शक्ति रोमकिलकम प्राणकृष्टाग्नि विनियोग आमंगुष्टाभ्यां नमः हरिंगर्जनिभ्यां नमः रोम मध्यमाभ्यां नमः आमनाभिभ्यां नमः हरिंगर्ष्टिकाभ्यां नमः रोम कर्णपुष्टाभ्यां नमः आम हृदयाय नमः हरिं शिरसे स्वाहा रोम शिखाय वसट आम कौसायम हरिं नेत्रदाय वसट रोम अस्त्रापट पूर्वसर दिग्बंध असुनिदे पुनर्स्माक्ष सक्ष पुनः प्राणमे नोइदे भोगम योपस्य में सूर्य मुचत मनमे मणियासुक्ति आवायुदो भव सद्दाविदो भव सन्निधो भव सन्निधो भव अवगुंडितो भव सुब्रदो भव सुब्रसन्नो भव सुभो भव वरदो भव प्रसिद्ध प्रसिद्ध स्वामी सर्वजगन्नाथ यावत् पूजावसानकं तावत् ध्रुवं प्रतिभावेन बिम्बेस्मिन् सन्निधं गुरु ओम नमो भगवते श्री कुशेलाय नमो नमो भगवते श्री कुबेराय नमः नमो भगवते श्री कुशेलाय नमो नमो भगवते श्री कुबेराय नमः नमो भगवते श्री कुशेलाय नमो नमो श्री कुबेराय नमः चतुर्नोति मंत्रं जन पौलसी परत्रपः लक्ष्मी प्रदसी मानंगद ईश्वरा डिसाइड नंबर नो स्तोत्र श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु गुरुदेव महेश्वरा गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः अपार सच्चि सुकुमारी राशोर यशोर्मिमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुणायुधं तं ब्रह्मं कबीरं चिन्ताविनं निर्दिशिन्दयामि ओम महासेन ओम सेन जाताय नमः ओम श्री रमणाय नमः ओम गुरवे नमः ओम अखंड संविदागराय नमः ओम महुजसे नमः ओम कारणोद्भवाय नमः ओम जगत्पितावताराय नमः ओम श्री भूमिनाथास्तलोचिताय नमः ओम पराशर कुलोदंसाय नमः ओम सुंदरातवत्पलाय नमः ओम कमनीय सुचारित्राय नमः ओम सयायाम्बा सयायवते नमः ओम शोणाकुलमौलिनमानसाय नमः ओम स्वर्णस्तगाय नमः ओम श्रीमद्वादशान्नमास्तले रक्तविद्योदयाय नमः ओम महाशक्तिनिवादेन प्रभुताय नमः ओम परमार्थविदे नमः ओम दिव्यराय नमः ओम पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः ओम इंदुमौलिना पितृपदे नमः ओम पितृराजेष्ठ सोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः ओम तमोमयाय नमः ओम उदासीनाय नमः ओम महायोगिने नमः ओम महोत्साहाय नमः ओम कुशाग्रदिये नमः ओम शांतसंकल्प संभ्रमाय नमः ओम सुसुंदुसे नमः ओम सवित्रे नमः ओम स्थिराय नमः ओम तपशविद सर्वंगाय नमः ओम उल्लाम्बूज विलोचनाय नमः ओम चंद्रिकासिदास श्रीमंडितानंद मंडलाय नमः ओम सुतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः ओम सूर्यदाक्ष विप्रमाय नमः ओम वेद वेदांत तत्वज्ञाय नमः ओम चिन्मुत्रणे नमः ओम त्रिगुणाधिकाय नमः ओम विरूपाक्ष गुहावासाय नमः ओम विराजत सलागुद्धिये नमः ओम उत्तिक्तनयनाय नमः ओम पूर्णाय नमः ओम रसिदासतांडवाय नमः ओम गंभीराय नमः ओम परमाचार्याय नमः ओम सुप्रसन्याय नमः ओम अभयप्रदाय नमः ओम दक्षिणासीनिवाय नमः ओम धीराय नमः ओम दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः ओम स्वराजय नमः ओम महर्षिये नमः ओम भगवते नमः ओम ईत्याय नमः ओम भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः ओम विमलाय नमः ओम दीर्घदर्शने नमः ओम आप्ताय नमः ओम ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः ओम समत्रुसे नमः ओम सत्यत्रुसे नमः ओम सत्याय नमः ओम प्रशांताय नमः ओम अमितविक्रमाय नमः ओम सुकुमाराय नमः ओम सदानंदाय नमः ओम मृदुवासिने नमः ओम दयार्णवाय नमः ओम श्री सोणाकुल युर्भूतस्कंदाश्रम निजेतनाय नमः ओम सद्दर्शनोपदिष्टने नमः ओम सद्भक्तवृंदपरिकृताय नमः ओम गणेशमुनिप्रियेण सेवितां कृष्णोरुवाय नमः ओम गीतोपदेशसाराधिकृत संचिन्न संशयाय नमः ओम वर्णासनमुदाजीदाय नमः ओम रसज्ञाय नमः ओम सौम्याय नमः ओम आत्मवदे नमः ओम सर्वामणिमस्तानामारात्याय नमः ओम सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः, ओम आत्मारामाय नमः, ओम महाभागाय नमः, ओम मातृमुक्तिविदायकाय नमः, ओम विनदाय नमः, ओम विनुदाय नमः, ओम विप्राय नमः, ओम मुनीन्द्राय नमः, ओम बाबकोज्वलाय नमः, ओम दर्शनादक सम्मार्णे नमः, ओम मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः, ओम मृच्छान्तिकर्षानित्याय नमः, ओम स्पृणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः, ओम अन्धस्मिरचण्डांसवे नमः, ओम संसारारण्यतारकाय नमः, ओम षोडादुष्टरे नमः, ओम आर्तविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः, ओम अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः, ओम नैसर्गीयमहातपसे नमः, ओम कमण्डलुधराय नमः, ओम शुभ्रकविनवसनाय नमः, ओम गुहाय नमः, ओम दंडवाणीय नमः, ओम कृपापूर्णाय नमः, ओम पवरोगपिशक्वराय नमः, ओम स्कंदाय नमः, ओम देवदमाय नमः, ओम अमर्त्याय नमः, ओम सेनानीय नमः, ओम पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ओम नमो भगवते श्री अरुणाचल श्री रमणाय नमः। नमो भगवते श्री अरुणाचल रमणाय नमः। नमो भगवते श्री अरुणाचल रमणाय नमः। नमो भगवते श्री कार्तिकाय नमः। नमो भगवते श्री मुरुगाय वल्ली देवाय नमः। नमो भगवते श्री सुब्रमण्याय नमः। नमो भगवते श्री स्वामिनाथाय नमः। नमो भगवते श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। नमो भगवते श्री नटराजाय नमः। नमो भगवते श्री भैरवरे नमः। नमो भगवते श्री नंदीवैसराय नमः। नमो भगवते श्री शिव पार्वतीये नमः। ओम नमः शिवाय नमः। ओम नमः शिवाय नमः। ओम नमः शिवाय नमः। ओम शिवाय नमः। ओम शिवाय नमः। ओम शिवाय नमः। ओम हरि ओम हरि ओम। उपदेश सारम। कत्तुराज्ञया प्रापदे बलम कर्मदिम्बरं कर्मदज्जडं कृतिमहददौ वदनकारणं फलमशाश्वतं गदनिरोधकम् ईश्वरार्पितं नेचया कृतं सिद्धसोदकं मुक्तिसाधकं कायवाङ्मन कार्यमुद्यमं भूजनं जप चिन्तनं क्रमा जगतैसरी युग्धसेवनम् अष्टमूर्तिभृत् देवभूजनम् उद्दमस्तवा दुज्जमन्दद सिद्धजं जप ज्ञानमुद्दमम् आज्यधारया श्रोदशासमं सरलचिन्तनं विरलदबरं वेदभावना सौवमित्यसौ भावनाभिधा भावनीमदा भावशून्यस भावसुस्तुति भावनाबल भक्तिरुद्धमा निरुस्तरे मन स्वस्थता क्रिया भक्ति योग बोधा च निश्चितं वायुरोदना दीयते मन जालभक्षिव क्रोधसाधनं सिद्धवायव सित्क्रियायुधा सागयोर्द्वयी शक्तिमूलगा लयविनाशने उभयरोधने लयकदम्बुन भवति नो मृदं प्राणबन्धना दीनमानसम् एकचिन्तना नासमेत्यद नष्टमानसो पृष्ठयोगिन नित्यमस्ति किं स्वस्तिदं यद दृश्यवारिदं सिद्धमात्मन चित्वदर्शनं तत्वदर्शनं मानसं दुगिं मार्गणे हृदे नैव मानसं मार्गार्जवा वृद्धयस्त्वहं वृद्धिमाश्रिता वृद्धयो मनो विद्याहं मन अहमयं कुलो भवति चिरवद ऐपदत्यहं निजविसारणम् अहमिनासभात् अहमहं दया स्फुरतीरस्वयं परमपूर्णस इदमहं वदा अभिज्ञमन्वहम् अहमिति न के अप्यल्यसत्तया विक्रयेन्द्रिय प्राणदीदम नामसेकज गज्जडं सस सत्ववासिका चित्पवेदरा सद्दयायिति सिद्धयायहम् ईसजीवयो वेषदीबिदा सत्स्वभावदो वस्तु केवलं देशानद स्वात्मदर्शनम् ईसदर्शनं स्वात्मरूपद आत्मसंस्थिति स्वात्मदर्शनम् आत्मनिर्भया आत्मनिष्ठदा ज्ञानवर्जिता अज्ञानहीनति ज्ञानमस्ति नादुमन्दरं किं स्वरूपमे आत्मदर्शने अव्यया भवा अपूर्णसित्सुगं बन्धमुक्त्यदी कम्बरं सुगं विन्दधीयै वस्तुदैविग अहमवेदगं निजविभानगं महतितं तपो रमणवागियं महतितं तपो रमणवागियं महतितं तपो रमणवागियम्.
Namo Ramana. In continuation of our satsangs for 42 select verses from Bhagavad Gita, we shall be concluding the study of verses 31 and 32. These two verses teach the amazing and loving relationship between the surrendered devotee and Ishwar. The committed sadhaka practicing self-inquiry embodies devotion of the highest order. Such is the vision of Gita. Our speaker for these sessions shall be Sri Raghav Kumarji, a long-time devotee of Bhagwan and a resident near the ashram in Tiruvannamalai. I would now request Raghav ji to take over.
Namaste. We'll start with the Shanti mantras. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Vande Shri Ramanashe Acharyasya Padabjam Yomi Darshayadisham Bhantam Dhvantamatitya Parthasarathi Rupena Shravakitva Shubhangiram Parthasyathi Haro Devaha Kripa Muktisapatunaha. So welcome to this session of the song Celestial, Bhagavan's 42 selected verses from the Gita. Today we have two verses of which one is a very well-known and popular shloka from the Bhagavad Gita. We will chant it and then we shall go into the study of this shloka. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nitya dhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. This shloka has one very meaningful and important pada, that's quarter. Yogakshemam vahamyaham. The literal meaning of this pada or this quarter is, I, Ishvara, look after the yoga and the kshema of those who are always connected to me. So it is an assurance given by Ishvara that those who have that attitude of surrender to Bhagavan will be, in some sense, taken care of. The word yoga here implies that whatever is missing in our life, that will be added to us. And kshema implies that whatever we already have, that will be protected, which is vital for our spiritual well-being, that will remain protected. So this is Ishvara's assurance to the devotee. The overall meaning of the shloka is that those who are having this ananya chinta, those who do not have a transactional relationship with Ishvara, instead they regard Ishvara as their own innermost self. They are the ananya chintaka. So ananyaha chintayanto mam, those who think and those who dwell upon me as non-separate from them. And in this way they worship me. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janaha paryupasate. So that is a very complete way of relating to Ishvara as their own self. Those nitya yuktas, nityabhyuktanam, so those who are thus ever connected to me. Nitya means always. Abhiyukta means, every way they are connected to Ishvara. They are not alienated from Ishvara. For them, yogakshemam vahamyaham. Nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. The idea here is that, so most devotees have, at least at some level, a certain transactional relationship with Ishvara, which is that they would seek some prayer or some granting of a boon from Ishvara. This in itself is not at all wrong. It is in every way proper that we relate to Ishvara as one's parent or one's father figure, one's guru figure. In every way it is appropriate. And Bhagavan himself has mentioned how a devotee is most definitely entitled in some sense to ask and to request fulfillment of prayer, whatever he wishes, some relief from my suffering. It's perfectly fine to ask for that. At the same time, at a certain phase, at a certain stage in this journey towards jnanam, that very devotee says, "Oh Lord, you know best, and I gracefully accept whatever you give to me. Whatever happens, I gracefully accept that." So this idea that I don't really have even a specific sankalpa, I don't really look out for myself so much, is best exemplified by those who are traditionally called sannyasis. Not just the name sannyasa, but those who represent the ideal of sannyasa, of renunciation, those who have taken to the vows of monasticism. Such great aspirants and great jnanis are primarily intended by this idea of yogakshemam vahamya. Because as Shankara beautifully explains it, that for them, they don't see anything else which is worth asking for. They see the Lord himself as their self is their object or their content of contemplation, and they are one with that very self. The contemplation there is not so much an effort as a continuous abidance, a sahaja sthiti there. And so it's no doubt a very high ideal being presented here. But the idea is that even for those who are not up to that stage of assimilating the knowledge, even for them, Ishvara does indeed have this assurance, yoga and kshema are taken care of by him. What is yoga? Like I said, apraptasya prapanam. So what I really need for my life and my spiritual journey specifically will be assured. It has to come sometimes from the outside. It's not something that I can totally, ensure to create from within. So I might need good health. I might need some minimum sustenance in life. So those things Ishvara assures are going to be provided by the cosmic intelligence. And then kshema. What is kshema? Yoga, remember, is apraptasya prapanam. What I don't have but I need will be supplied to me, says Ishvara. And praptasya rakshanam is kshemaha. Kshemaha is what I already have, I need to safeguard that. But Ishvara ensures that those are preserved, those are retained, they are secured. What I already have, but I continue to need them. That rakshanam, that protection of what I already have, which is so important and vital for the spiritual journey, that security is also provided by Ishvara. So the reason why this is really important for all those who have this commitment to self-inquiry is that our mind is prone to think that for self-inquiry, I need so many things. I need health, I need so much of sustenance, and there are n number of other things that I need to satisfy to provide that platform to practice self-inquiry. Now, as a matter of principle, of course, this is correct. But then our mind has a way of playing a trick. It will make that list so unmanageable and so large that we are effectively in the same samsara. We will tend to feel, or the mind will tend to create this insecurity that, unless I have this huge list of things in my life, I cannot practice self-inquiry. And self-inquiry, therefore, now becomes dependent on the fulfillment of so many seemingly legitimate things. So that's where we need to, constantly recollect this assurance, follow some minimum common sense, and ensure some basic health, basic needs fulfillment. But then let's not start brooding so much about what all is required to continue to maintain this external platform, this external lifestyle to support Atma Vichara. Because that becomes another samsara, meaning another never-ending project which will never be fulfilled. Looking for that ideal platform when all the ingredients are in place, and then I will, effectively practice self-inquiry is never going to happen. In traditional Vedanta, we can say that the truth doesn't demand or depend very critically on something external to it, such as some things in my life and so on and so forth. So if I were to just count on that very truth, which I have some inkling of, if I were to just totally rely on that to whatever extent I can, it's okay. It's not irresponsible. It's not overly idealistic. So this is Ishvara's assurance that go for what you feel is true boldly, and what you need will be fulfilled. So that is very heartening, because otherwise we would, like I just said, spend all our energies on trying to maintain this ideal platform for self-inquiry, which we have maybe in our life. Could be the lifestyle, could be the house we are living in, could be so many other things. And the mind has this habit of justifying all its, all its neurotic requirements as essential for Atma Vichara. And so Ishvara here, Bhagavan Krishna, is trying to help us undo that pitfall or not fall into that mistake. And so if we were to whatever extent we can have that attitude, Ishvara will provide and protect. We can boldly go ahead, prioritize Atma Vichara and allow the other things to fall in place. So we don't try to focus so much on the other things in one's life, thinking that unless I do that, I can't practice Atma Vichara. Instead, we reverse the priority. We focus on Atma Vichara, do whatever it takes to just be with the practice of Bhakti or Atma Vichara. I am combining the two in one category right now. So if we focus on that, the other things will fall into place. To the extent they're important, they will be with you. And to the extent they are not, perhaps they will leave us, which is fine. We don't have to really worry about that. That is the assurance. Yoga Kshemam Bhavame. It's interesting how this small phrase that I assure, I provide and protect is also the tagline for the LIC Corporation of India. I think I mentioned this once, that the Life Insurance Corporation of India has this, tagline or this title below, Yoga Kshemam Mahameham. A good reminder that the real provider of insurance is not our health insurance or the life insurance, it is Ishvara. So that spirit is sought to be inculcated by Ishvara here. So here we can see how the different grades of, devotees are there. That Ishvara here assures us, of course, this yoga and kshema. At the same time, it's very understandable that there are grades, so to speak, in the degree of, owning up this truth, owning up and accepting this truth in one's life that is possible. So different people are able to, in some sense, have a deeper sense of connectedness to Ishvara. So Sri Krishna actually refers to the well-known shloka in this context, saying that there are 4 types of devotees. Artho jignasarartharthi jnani ja varakshata. So this is the Chaturvidha Bhajante Mam Janaha Sukritino Arjuna, says Sri Krishna Bhagavan, in the context of this shloka, saying that of those who are seeking me, the highest are those, of course, who have totally connected with me, who are not alienated from me at all. And yet the others also are noble. Sri Krishna Bhagavan validates all devotees. He doesn't look down on the other forms of devotion where still there is a certain degree of insecurity and fear. And so people look out for themselves. People try to ensure their own interests without saying that, I leave it to Ishvara. That attitude may be wholly missing. Even they are exalted because they too are having the same priority in mind. So the 4 types, remember, of bhaktas: Artho Jignasu Artharthi. The Artha Bhakti is what everyone has, all people in this world, in one phase or the other in their life, have this Artha Bhakti. It's very powerful, very poignant. Artha means one in distress. So Artha Bhakti is that prayer very deep from within which emerges when one person is in distress. And Ishvara definitely says that that prayer will be taken care of, addressed, perhaps in his own intelligence. It may not be addressed the way I want it exactly, but it will be addressed. It is reaching his ears, so to speak. The Artha Bhakta is therefore also noble. Because how many people in distress really call upon Ishvara? How many people pray? So few. And so Ishvara is very respectful in a sense, endorsing that Artha Bhakti, saying they are also very noble, such Artha Bhaktas who only pray to Ishvara when they are in distress. And then there is the second form of bhakti, the Artharthi Bhakti. So they not only pray when they're in distress, they also pray when they seek something positive, something that's missing in their life, they seek that. As we saw briefly in one earlier session, that's the next type of bhakti where he is both an Artha Bhakta as well as one who seeks something more from the Lord in the form of some gain he seeks in his life. So he is in a sense a little more connected because he knows and he has that Shraddha that Ishvara also provides what I need in my life as per my perception. He is an Artharthi. Artha means a want, a need, something I desire. Arthi is one who seeks. So you seek from Ishvara what you desire. That doesn't mean you neglect to do what you need to do to get that desire fulfilled. However, you pray to Ishvara to take care of those X factors which are not in your control. In any endeavor, there is my effort, the Purushartha, and then there is an X factor, the cosmic X factors, not in my control. Could be anything from the weather to the people who are in that particular situation who can affect my efforts. So those X factors are taken care of by prayer. So I do my effort and then pray as well. That's the most effective method to achieve what I want to achieve. So the Artharthi is in some sense more exalted because he not only prays when he's in distress, but also when he needs something. And then in a great quantum leap in spiritual and psychological evolution, that Bhakta over a period of time says, what is this Ishvara? What is the nature of this Ishvara? Can he really free me from this very desire to go on fulfilling one thing or the other, to go on being in some distress? So I want this, I pray to Ishvara, that is one type. Then I want to be free from being a wanting person. So that is something very powerful. I want this freedom from being this small, vulnerable, wanting person. When that desire comes up, that person is a jignasu. He starts to become a jignasu. A jignasu is one who desires to know Ishvara, the tattvam, the truth about Ishvara. So I no longer want some simple desire fulfillment. Instead, I want to be free from this smallness, which makes me want always this or that, makes me always feel vulnerable and experience sorrow. So that wanting person, as I'm calling it, is what I want freedom from. I want to be free from being a wanting person. Then I'm a jignasu, the one who seeks to know the truth about oneself and Ishvara. That's a huge quantum leap in evolution. If a person has even come to that in this life, it's a point of great significance. Krishna, in fact, assures that that's the only thing that continues into the next janma. If you are a jignasu, you will continue that journey. Every other thing in your life, it's just for this janma. No doubt some punya will help. Some good things you have done will help, but then we don't know when it will give the result. It might give the result after one more janma. So there's no assurance that that punya for what you have done in this janma will immediately come. No assurance for that. But Krishna assures that whatever clarity in terms of this desire to know oneself, desire to be free from being this wanting jiva, that desire will definitely carry forward. It will continue to motivate us. It will come up at an early point in the next janma. So many of us who have taken to this pursuit at some point in our life, seemingly in a very mysterious way, it is rest assured coming from the carry forward of the past janma karma. And so that jignasu is therefore very noble, says Krishna. And the last one is the jnani bhakta. See the oxymoron here, the jnani bhakta. There is no real oxymoron, in fact. The reason is the jnani is regarded as the highest of the bhaktas. In the vision of the Gita, there is no binary jnana versus bhakti. The jnani is just regarded as a logical progression on the path of bhakti. At some point, that very bhakta who sought prayers from Ishvara, who was praying to him in various ways, he then seeks to know the truth about Ishvara. That's a natural progression. And so that jnani bhakta has now got a glimpse, at least, of that self as all that one wants. That all that one wants is already the nature of the Atman. So I don't need to become anything. I don't need anything to be added on to me. I am already full and complete. I am already free. So that glimpse of Brahma Jnana first happens, and that very Jnana becomes Paripakva Jnana, which also can take a journey across several janmas. We will see that later. Bhagavan has also included one nice shloka embodying that journey of how that initial inspiration, a very clear glimpse into the self, what the self is as non-dual, that very non-dual self knowledge then becomes paripakva. So all the other countervailing forces are destroyed. All the obstacles are destroyed. The jnana remains the same, but some persistent obstacles are then removed in that second phase of this jnana journey. These two legs, if you like, of the jnana journey are one, to arrive at that clear glimpse or insight into what is the nature of the self as non-dual, as before even the mind is there. That consciousness that I am is a priori. It is before anything is. And so all these thoughts and emotions cannot really change the truth about what I am. All this becomes evident to the person, and yet some obstacles remain. That's when this last phase of the jnana journey continues apace. That itself can be over a lifetime. So that person is the jnani bhakta. And for him is enjoined gradual renunciation of what is seen as false. So such a person, he may lose interest in pursuing the usual pursuits of artha and kama and so on and so forth. And is enjoined to just leave them. He's no longer bound to just pursue that. Just for the sake of pursuing it, he can be honest and true to himself and let go of those other pursuits. In other words, in the older tradition, sannyasa would be enjoined for that jnani bhakta. And even today, we can see that same spirit of sannyasa being enjoined by Bhagavan as well, where formal sannyasa was never emphasized by Bhagavan, but he always endorsed those who wished to commit themselves in self-inquiry. He never tried to insist that they have to continue to pursue what they want. He only said, outer renunciation, you don't have to do it. It will happen automatically. His own nephew, Sri Vishwanathan, such an outstanding devotee, comes to him, and Bhagavan encourages or endorses his choice of lifestyle. The other devotees or the other relatives of Bhagavan's nephew, Sri Vishwanathan, discourage him and try to take him back to get him to enter the regular stream of life of being a grihastha and working for money and so on. But he is adamant and clear in his priorities in life, Sri Vishwanathan, Bhagavan's nephew, and Bhagavan never tries to say, no, you should go back and just, pursue self-inquiry there, continue to lead your own life. He doesn't say that. Because Sri Vishwanathan was so clear. And so such a devotee is primarily the intended sadhaka in this shloka, ananyas chintayantu mam ye janah paripasati esham nityabhiktanam yogakshemam vahameham. So the nityayukta word used here, nityabhiyuktaha, implies that there is no alienation between that person and Bhagavan. The idea is that one of the biggest challenges each of us feels is that feeling of disconnectedness with Ishvara, that we are left to fend for ourselves in this challenging and hostile world out here. And by, that feeling diminishes. No matter what the challenge is, no matter what dukkha comes in the form of prarabdha, one doesn't feel that alienation with Ishvara. That's a great blessing of both bhakti or jnana, whichever way we look at it, that every situation starts off with that person, feeling that connection, and then he faces that situation. The thought never comes, if God exists, why is this happening to me? That thought doesn't come. He only unconditionally accepts the fact of his situation and merely shifts and turns his attention to the self or to Ishvara, whichever the case be. So all the situations which come do not make him alienated from Ishvara. That's a great blessing. It's a very significant milestone which everyone can attain. This is before even we are talking about that total assimilation of Brahmajnana. So once the total non-dual knowledge is available, there is no question of Ishvara being separate from one and so on. But even before that, the person is able to accept unconditionally what is his lot in life, so to speak, and just stay centered on that I am a bhakta, that Ishvara is, I am, all is well. Ishvara is, I am, all is well. That is the spirit of that mature bhakta. The same attitude is evidenced even in this jnani bhakta. The self is, whatever is happening is play of name and form. The self alone is true. Whatever is happening is just the name and form playing. He never swerves from that. Even if we say that there is a temporary disturbance, it doesn't have a moment. Note why I said a temporary disturbance, because we are not talking about the Jivan Mukta. He is a jnani, all right, but there is paripakvata not there yet. So there is a paripakva jnanam, which is free of all obstacles. Since that jnanam is not yet there, we're looking at those sadhakas. So for them, there is no doubt a certain conscious turning towards the self required. The spark has been lit, but it has not yet consumed all the obstacles. You can use the word vasanas if you like, or viparyayas, viparita bhavanas, contrary notions. All these are obstacles. So the spark of jnana has been lit in the heart by the grace of Bhagavan, by the grace of the Guru. But it will take a little while for that fire of jnana to consume all that is contrary to that jnana. In that journey, this obtains. That there is no alienation with Ishvara, even though, yes, the flow and ebb and flow of life presents so many challenges. But there is a Teflon coating, as it were, inside. So that Teflon coating keeps you protected. That is the assurance of Bhagavan as well. So the more we have this acceptance that I don't have to, beyond a point, hold myself responsible for every single thing in my life, which I might think is required even for leading a spiritual life. I have a samanya, a general common sense of trying to be practical, all right, but Ishvara will provide and protect. That assurance we need to constantly revisit in ourselves. And then Bhagavan goes on to say that of these four devotees, the Artha, the Jignasu, the Artharthi, and finally the Jnani, he has a special word to say for that Jnani Bhakta. So we will see that special word which Bhagavan has about the Jnani Bhakta in the next shloka, the 32nd shloka in this selection of 42 shlokas. We will read that. Tesham jnani nityayuktaha ekabhaktirvishishyate priyo hi jnanino tyartham aham sacha mama priyaha. Tesham jnani nityayuktaha ekabhaktirvishishyate priyo hi jnanino tyartham aham sacha mama priyaha. So this is the next very beautiful shloka where Bhagavan says, Tesham jnani nitya yuktaha. So again, it reiterates that word. Of these four types of devotees, the one who prays in distress, the one who prays both in distress as well as when he wants something, The one who seeks to know me, struggles to know me, and one who has already got that insight, the spark of jnana, and is still to just let the jnana do its work of removing the obstacles, of burning away all the other obstacles. That fourth type. Of these four, the fourth category, the jnani bhakta, who leads a lifestyle of renunciation, of surrender to Ishvara, embodied in his lifestyle, not just in one's heart, but even his lifestyle is in that embodiment of surrender, meaning he is like a sannyasi. For such a person, he has only one aim, one commitment in life, which is Ishvara, or the self. And for such a person who is Nitya Yukta, connected, Bhagavan says, he is dear to me, such a mama priyaha, and I am dear to him. So two very evocative words are used of being dear, being priyaha. Priyaha means one who is beloved. So Bhagavan here basically highlights the fact that this Advaita is not all that dry. When it comes to its embodiment in Vyavahara, embodiment means its expression in Vyavahara, in the lifestyle, how they deport themselves externally, how they live their life. The Jnani Bhaktas are a wonderful combination of both internal knowledge as well as outer sweetness. There is a sweetness of bhakti in their connection to Ishvara. So Ishvara, Sri Krishna Bhagavan here assures that. We can also see how the same equation of sweetness, of devotion was there between Bhagavan, Sri Ramana himself, and some of his devotees. I'm reminded of one incident which I personally like, where Arthur of Rome, when he was in that prisoner of war camp in Thailand, in I think Bangkok or some place, knew one gentleman called Louis Hart. And all the people he interacted with, Arthur Osborne interacted with, he was the only person who actually came and met Bhagavan. And he was so deeply touched by Bhagavan, and Bhagavan, they say, gazed into his eyes for a long time, indicating some, special recognition that Bhagavan felt this man was sincere and he had an open heart to receive the grace. So Bhagavan, they say, gazed into that Louis Hart's eyes for a while. And later Louis Hart still asked Bhagavan, I want initiation. He wanted a concrete assurance or signal from Bhagavan that I want initiation. And Bhagavan says something very clearly, saying that has already been given. So Bhagavan very openly assures that initiation is definitely given by him, which in his case was by his loving gaze, which would deep inside start helping that jnana flower up, helping that very knowledge take deeper roots and slowly remove the ajnana, remove the obstacles. So Bhagavan says so much in so many words that that initiation has already been given. He assures him. And then Louis Hart's very interestingly and very, very in a very human way, he asks him that when I go back to Europe, how do I know I will remain connected? I feel apprehensive. I may not remain steadfast in my devotion after I return. And there too, Bhagavan very magically, as it were, assures him, even if you let go of Bhagavan, Bhagavan will never let go of you. Some very reassuring words of Bhagavan that even if due to the force of situations and the constraints of the social life that a person is caught up in, if he temporarily forgets, as it were, the earlier connectedness to Bhagavan, that earlier visit of Louis Hart's to Bhagavan, if the effect of that wears off too, Bhagavan assures him, Bhagavan will never let go of you. The same assurance that Sri Krishna gives, Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham, Bhagavan Sri Ramana also gives the same assurance. But first we have to be open and receive that grace. That jnana vritti has to be there. That very jnana vritti will work itself and remove and negate all other viparyayas, all other viparita bhavanas, contrary notions will get removed. That is the assurance and grace of Bhagavan. So that's one very nice incident, how Bhagavan too embodies that beautiful mix of loving devotion, even while the emphasis is on non-dual knowledge. We have also how in Bhagavan's numerous devotees' accounts an example of very inconspicuous show of grace and protection. There is no overt acknowledgement. Bhagavan doesn't say, yes, it's true, I did protect you. He never says so much. But it's very clear to the devotee that's what has happened. In one instance, it could be something relatively mundane. There was one a devotee, K.K. Nambiyar, who was returning to Chennai from Tiruvannamalai. Those were days when transport was very difficult. You had to take a train, catch a train. And so he had a family of 5 members, and there was not enough space on the train, presume. I mean, it was a crowded train. They didn't have an assured reservation. And his friend challenges him when K.K. Nambiyar says, Bhagavan will take care of it. The friend challenges him, let me see, let's have a bet that how you will accommodate your 5 family members there on that train. And K.K. Nambiyar says, okay, Bhagavan will take care. He has that faith. And they say that when he boards the train, initially there are just 2 seats vacant. Then he just is impelled to just go forward in that very train. And there's a whole coupe of seats. Coupe means whole group of seats, all vacant, which was closed by a door. And they're able to find comfortable accommodation, which was quite unexpected given his circumstances. So again, small things, inconspicuous things, but all the way Bhagavan's grace was experienced by devotees. Perhaps many such cases, the devotee himself only would be convinced. You cannot even tell it in some spectacular way. Doesn't matter. It matters a lot to that devotee. That devotee has no doubt he has the protection, that yoga and kshema assured by Bhagavan are definitely a reality. So that is the magic of devotion. Remember always how the words of Sri Ramakrishna we can recollect. The jnani is like how you get milk from the udder of a cow, not from the horns or from the mouth. Even so, Ishvara is formless, all-pervading. Which way do you turn? But the jnani is like that udder of the cow. That's where the grace comes. That's where the pure nectar of milk comes. So a jnani is not just a physical embodiment. He's Ishvara in a physical form. Otherwise, Ishvara is either all-pervading or formless. Either which way, there is no way to access that grace. But a jnani is that living embodiment. That is why it's so helpful. In fact, it is said that only for the sake of the devotees, Ishvara takes a form. Only because of the earnest importunities, the prayers of Hanuman, it is said Rama took a janma. Sri Ramakrishna says. We normally think he did so to kill Ravana. Well, which is fine as far as it goes. But Sri Ramakrishna used to say, only because of Hanuman, Rama took birth. So that is so beautiful that the prayers of the devotees, the love of the devotees is what evokes that form to emerge. So yoga kshemam is what even the gurus assure us. With all we are expected is to have that openness, stay committed to the path, and not overly worry and get neurotic about the situations in one's life. Saying that unless I sort this out, I cannot practice self-inquiry. Let's not get into that, is what Bhagavan is trying to highlight here. And then again, there is something very interesting. He says, Sacha mama priyaha. So Ishvara says, the jnani is dearest to me, and he regards me also as the dearest. So the idea here is that for the jnani, who is still, remember, we are talking about the Jnani who has some insight into what the self is, but he has not fully become one with that truth. For such a person, he doesn't have any other priority in his life. So that is the reason why Bhagavan says that I am dear to him. So no matter what happens in his life, he keeps reverting only to that self. Thus, whatever he defines as sadhana, that jnani bhakta, that alone consumes him. So it's so helpful to see that instead of thinking in black and white, that okay, either there is an ajnani, means one who has all the regular desires and is caught up in samsara, and there is a jnani who is completely beyond all this samsara. Then where do we stand? Perhaps we are not so much into all kinds of desires. At the same time, we are not Brahmajnanis or Jivan Muktas. This whole discernment of the stages of Paripakva Jnanam, of final knowledge, is given for us so that we can understand how even before the self-knowledge occurs, we can still have the total love for Ishvara as the one who is the most important thing, the one who is the self. So one can prioritize this spiritual journey in one's life. So that Jnani Bhakta regards me as the very self, says Krishna. Priyohi Jnanino Atyartham. So for that kind of devotee, I am the dearest. So he has so many roles in his life to perform. Even while he does those roles, inside there is like the Adhara Shruti, a continuous awareness that I am just doing these roles, but what am I? I am a devotee. Either that or I am the Atman, and these roles are just coming and going. Both are fine, both are just the same jnanam expressed in two different ways. So we can either say various roles I do with respect to mother, father, wife, child, employer, whatever. And yet, I am not these roles. I am the devotee. I am connected to Ishvara. Just by being myself, I am connected to Krishna. That is the spirit of the devotee. And again, he can use the same ideas and present it in jnana language and say, I am that self which always is. I am the pure consciousness. These various names and forms that are coming to me by prarabdha, I neither reject them nor do I seek them. So they come and go. The same idea, therefore, can be expressed in jnana language or bhakti language. But nitya yuktaha, and he is always connected. Tesham jnani nitya yuktaha, eka bhaktir vishishyate. So he has only one pursuit, one priority. Eka bhakti means one alone is his commitment. Vishishyate, he is therefore special, says Krishna. And like I just said, Priyo hi jnano atyartham aham samachaja mama priyaha. He says, Krishna says, the jnani thinks of me as the very self. Each of us, we think, I like this, I like that. If we closely examine whatever we like in our life, could be our close, near, dear ones or some object, we don't actually like or need any of them, including one's nearest and dearest. Instead, as our acharyas explain and the Upanishads explain, Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. It's only because they evoke that self in me, which is unsullied, which is pure, which is of the nature of purnatvam, of joy. Only when that object or that person evokes that beautiful self in me, I have a value to that object. If that object were to not evoke that, then I lose interest in that object. So if we examine why is it that I have some love for anything, it's because that something or person or relation, they evoke something welcoming, something that is dear to me. So to evoke the pleased self, they evoke that pure I, which is free of all blemishes. So because of that, I have value for that person or relation or object. And so here, therefore, that person regards Vasudevaha, Krishna, as the self. Naturally, they are the dearest. So if I regard Ishvara as my own self, then Ishvara will be the dearest. If I regard something else as my own self, like how even a parent might invest all his emotions in the child, he regards the child as his own self, not just that there's a child. It's not there is a child, there is my child. That minus, that Atmatvam is invested in the child. That's why the child is dear to me. And so, if we recognize that it is the Atma Tattvam that we see in any person or thing that makes that person dear to me, we will understand here how or why. That Jnani Bhakta regards Ishvara as the dearest because he regards Ishvara as his own self. Just dwelling upon Ishvara evokes that pure beauty in me, that pure awareness which is free of all limitations, all absence of Ananda. All of that goes away. That Ananda Swarupa naturally comes up by dwelling upon Ishvara, by dwelling upon the self. So for such Jnani Bhakta, therefore, Ishvara is this, the shloka says, very dear. So as we can see, this is both a sadhana. For me, it is a sadhana. For us, it is a sadhana because we can try to see that all those things that attract us in our life, really, they're just evoking that pure self. If I have that spirit, then I can develop viveka. And then when I'm totally clear about it, I naturally lose needless interest in this samsara of world of names and forms. There's a natural falling off of the names and forms. There's no holding on. So for many parents, it is such a challenge when the empty nest happens, for example. Children grow up and leave. But if they were to become aware of this, even when they are having all the love for the children, there is no holding on. The child is beloved because that child evokes something beautiful in me. That child evokes the self that I already am. So if that recognition is there, then even when, as the flow of life happens, the child leaves, the person still falls back on the Atman. He still has that Ishvara inside, who always stays and can evoke that pureness in me. So that is therefore a great sadhana. Initially, it becomes spontaneous for the Jnani and the Paripakva Jnani. Anything that is natural and spontaneous for the Jnani is a sadhana for the person on the path, person on the journey. There is some conscious choice which we have to use to feel that connectedness to Ishvara. So whenever we like something, recognize that I superimpose Ishvara on that thing. That is why I like it. So we highlight that aspect of it. Supposing I know, let's just say, I know that I am full or I am beautiful. I don't need a mirror always before me. If a person knows he or she is beautiful, let's just assume. Whenever he looks at himself in a mirror, he will say, oh yes, this mirror confirms that I am beautiful. When the mirror goes away, he doesn't become disheartened. Oh my, I am not okay. I can't accept myself. That doesn't happen. So the mirror is only a reminder of what you are. So all those who are important in your life, whom you have love for, they are like mirrors. They just reflect what you are. Your love for them is a reflection of what you are. So that is the idea here. So when the mirrors change or, due to the forces of prarabdha are no longer there, you don't change the conclusion about what I am. That is the sadhana. That is the message that Bhagavan Sri Ramana gives through this Gita shloka. That I am always of the nature of fullness and freedom. And I regard Vasudevaha as Aham. I am one with that Lord Vasudeva. That's the spirit of this shloka. Okay, with this, we will conclude today's session and chant the Shanti Mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you. And Namaste, Anuragji. Can you take over?
Raghav, thank you so much for the session. Since we do not have any questions on either Zoom or YouTube, okay, we have a question coming in from Pradeep Kumarji. I shall read the question out. His question is, I quote, is there any prarabdha karma for Jnani, as Jnani has no karma associated with?
Yeah, so the question is there any prarabdha karma for a jnani, or is there no prarabdha associated with a jnani? So there are two, okay, I'll give you the simple answer here, which Bhagavan himself answered in this way. For a jnani, there is no prarabdha. However, when we, the devotees, see a certain jnani as being incarnated or embodied in some physical body, then we say, okay, the jnani has a prarabdha. Just as we say, Sri Bhagavan ate food, Bhagavan took a walk on Arunachala, Bhagavan talked to devotees. So all these are statements which we say, even though we know Bhagavan is formless, Bhagavan is not in the body, Bhagavan is everywhere. Bhagavan meaning Bhagavan Sri Ramana. So even though we say Bhagavan Sri Ramana is everywhere, he is formless, he is Brahman, yet we use the word Bhagavan ate food, Bhagavan talked to devotees, and so on. So from the perspective of the devotees, we have to accept that the jnani has prarabdha. That is the appearance from our vision, in our limited vision. But from Bhagavan's own experience, he does not experience I have prarabdha. When there is no experience of I have a body, where is the question of prarabdha? So Bhagavan says, the jnani doesn't have prarabdha. However, prarabdha is what the devotees see and give a name for it. So when they see that their guru walks, talks, etc., they give a name for it called prarabdha. So that is the idea. From the devotee's perspective, we can say jnani has prarabdha, because we have to make sense of what is happening. If we say jnani has no prarabdha, then what is happening there? Who is talking? Who is doing? So this question can at best be answered saying that there is something called prarabdha, which is also actually as per Ishvara's will. So Ishvara actually is, as it were, presenting himself for our grace. For the sake of devotees, Ishvara is continuing that body, you can say like that. So I think that is clear. From devotees' perspective, only prarabdha is, but from jnani's perspective, there is no prarabdha. He is one with all that exists. There was another question, Tuji.
Raghavji, we have a second question coming in from Neera Kashyapji on YouTube. I shall read that out. Sorry, it's just, sorry, the screen is moving a little fast at my end. Yes, I quote, would the Jnani Bhakta naturally attract people and situations that would further the quest, or would the struggle over dualities still remain? Unquote.
Yes, so the question is, does the Jnani Bhakta naturally attract situations that facilitate the pursuit? So for sure, they attract situations that facilitate the pursuit. For sure, they do. The only thing here is that it's not necessarily a kind of pushy or an easy ride there, as seen by others. So from the Jnani Bhakta's perspective, I just to reiterate, since I did say that there is something called Jnanam and Paripakva Jnanam. So this is the vision both in the Bhagavad Gita and Adi Shankara. This kind of little distinction is allowed to help us. Otherwise, this actually there's all that exists is Jnanam alone, but then that doesn't really help. So to clarify things for us and give us a certain insight into what this Jnana journey is about, the Acharyas have accepted, provisionally this idea of Jnana as a vritti, where it kind of starts working on you. Then Paripakva Jnanam, which is the real Jnanam per se. Okay. Now the question is, in this journey, do situations facilitate it, or do we attract situations that facilitate it? For sure. If anything, Krishna's assurance is that this is a very interesting thing, because no one knows how the law of karma works. We know it works. We can never say this karma will give this result after some time. Only Sarvagnya Ishvara, all-knowing Ishvara can answer that question, that a given karma will give a given result. Now see the interesting thing here. Krishna being Sarvajna, he is all-knowing Ishvara, he alone is able to make this assertion. So we have to take that word as our guarantee. And he says that your efforts towards jnana are a kind of, motivator for this law of karma to present very quickly those things that you need. So otherwise, if let us say a person doesn't have any interest in self-knowledge or even any kind of moksha pursuit, the law of karma works at its own pace and presents n number of situations, positive and negative. Some of them maybe he goes deeper into samsara. Some of them maybe is a little better. It has its own course. But Krishna assures saying that if a person takes to the pursuit of moksha, in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is explained that in detail. So if that happens, the law of karma now becomes favorable to him. Now, the idea of favorable doesn't mean that everything will come as he wants, all his desires will be fulfilled. Doesn't mean that. But Krishna, when he says favorable, we take his word, take him at his word. So whatever is happening to that Jnani Bhakta, whether he himself knows it or not, is favorable to him. He needs to undergo that and process that. That's the optimal way towards Paripakva Jnana. So simple answer, yes, indeed, the law of karma assures and ensures that only what is needed for that Jnani Bhakta to complete that last leg of the Jnana journey comes up, which may not necessarily be all comfy and cushy, but for sure that is the optimal path to Paripakva Jnana. I think that answers the question. There was one more, I think.
Raghavji, thank you. There is a third question which has come in from Ajitji. I shall read that out. Quote, whatever the ailment comes to body can be prarabdha for Jnani Bhakta? Question. And Sanchit Agami will not be there at all, isn't it? Unquote.
Yes, like I said, when the Jnani Bhakta, or here there's a difference here. We are talking about the Jnani himself, not the Jnani Bhakta who is kind of still in the process towards the end. So let's take Bhagavan himself, Sri Ramana. So he doesn't have Sanchita and Agami karma phala. But whatever he underwent in the form of, let us say, the experience of the physical ailment, etc., is that prarabdha or not? Yeah, for sure, from the devotee's perspective, it is prarabdha. Not only the ailment, everything he did in the form of what he ate, what he talked, all that is also prarabdha. We talk of the ailment because it seems so unpleasant, and we ask, why did he have to suffer? Did he need to suffer? So that's a separate question. But for now, just we recognize that everything that the Jnani experiences, undergoes in our perception. So Bhagavan, let's say one day ate some payasam. Okay? That is also prarabdha of the Jnani. Bhagavan went around the hill, prarabdha of Jnani. Bhagavan unfortunately was once hit by some thieves who broke into his cottage and looking for something foolishly. That is also prarabdha. So all that is as seen by the devotees. Yes, Bhagavan had the prarabdha. And like I said, from Bhagavan's own perspective, it's all Brahman alone. There is no prarabdha at all from that jnana vision. Having said that, regarding the ailment point, there is an interesting perspective, which is, like I said, from the pramana of Sri Ramakrishna and Ramana Maharshi Bhagavan, we can say that Bhagavan did say in response to a question from AFS Talayar Khan, this is AFST, that when, I think I mentioned this before this, so when Mrs. AFST asked Bhagavan, you're so particular, everything should be shared among the devotees. If anyone gives any, eatable, like some dry fruits or anything, fruits, it's immediately distributed to all equally, or in the dining hall, everyone is treated equally. You just don't like, you to be given special treatment. So why don't you give this ailment also equally to all the devotees? Let us also share this pain. We can't bear to see you in pain. So very earnestly she tells Bhagavan like that, very innocently, that let all devotees share your pain. And then Bhagavan says something remarkable. He says, from where else do you think I got this from in the first place? So it is, of course, a passing remark, but definitely something to ponder. Namely that there is a mysterious, perhaps, connection whereby some of the devotees who have surrendered to Bhagavan has the power to maybe remove or destroy that karma of the devotees. Even in Sri Ramakrishna's life, this is validated, saying that what Sri Ramakrishna underwent towards the end was because he had out of his grace, worked out the karmas. Presumably what would have taken a long time to work itself out in the devotee's life, very quickly gets finished in the Guru's life. So out of grace, Bhagavan, they say, takes on himself some of these karmas of those who have surrendered to him. So such an idea is validated, no doubt, by Bhagavan as well as, Sri Ramakrishna. So we can take that also into account to say why that ailment came.
Raghav, thank you. We do not have any more questions. Once again, thank you, Raghavji. This was a wonderful session. We have resolved all the queries, and we shall meet next month at the same Sunday at the same time. I would now request Narayananji to initiate Akshar Manamalai and Arati. Thank you.
கருணாருணமணி திருநாவலி நிகர்த்தரும் அக்ஷரமண மகிழ்மாலை திருநாடிய திரு அடியார் திருமறை தெரிய பரவுதல் பொருளாக கருணாகரம் முனி ரமணாரியன் கையினால் சொல்லியது கதியாக அருணாச்சலம் என அகமே அறிவோடும் ஆழ்வார் சிவனுலகு ஆழ்வாரே. அருணாச்சலவன கேட்ட அக்ஷரமணமாலை சாற்ற கருணாகர கணபதியே கரமருவி காப்பாயே. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சலம் என அகமே நினைப்பவர் அகந்தை வேறறுப்பாய் அருணாச்சலா அழகு சுந்தரம் அகமும் நீயும் முற்று வினமாயிருப்போம் அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அகம்புகுந்தீர்த்தும் அககுகை சிறையாய் அமர்வித்ததென்கொள் அருணாச்சலா ஆறு காயனை ஆண்டனை அகற்றிடில் அகிலம் பழித்திடும் அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல இப்படி உன்னையே நினைப்பித்தாய் இனி யார் விடுவார் அருணாச்சலா ஈன்றிடும் அன்னையின் பெரிதருள் புரிவோம் இதுவோ நதருள் அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா முனையே மாற்றி ஓடாதுள்ளத்தின் மேல் உறுதியாயிருப்பாய் அருணாச்சலா ஊர் சுற்று உளம்பிடாது உன்னை கண்டு அடங்கி அழகை காட்டருணாச்சல அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா என்னை அழித்திப்போ என்னை களவாவி இதுவோ ஆண்மை அருணாச்சலா தேரிந்த உறக்கம் என்னை பிறர் இழுக்க இது உனக்கழகோ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா अरुणाचल अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल ஐம்புல கள்வர் அகத்தினில் புகும்போர் அகத்தினிலையோ அருணாச்சலா ஒருவனா முன்னை ஒளித்தவர் வருவார் சூதே இது நாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா ஓங்கார பொருள் உப்புயர்வில்லை உனையார் அறிவார் அருணாச்சலா அவ்வை போல எனக்கும் அருளை தந்து என்னை ஆழ்வது உன் கடன் அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல அருணாச்சலம் வாழி கும்பர்களும் வாழி அக்ஷரமணமாலை வாழி ஓம் பூர்புவஸ்வ तत्सौदर्वण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् देवी कवितप्लुष्व सत्यं दर्शन प्रसयामि अमृतत्वं स्वाहा ओम प्राणाय स्वाहा ओम अपानाय स्वाहा ओम ध्यानाय स्वाहा ओम उदानाय समानाय स्वाहा ब्रह्मणे स्वाहा ओम भगवती श्री अरुणाचल रमणाय नमः श्री कार्तिकाय मुरुगाय वल्ली देवाय नमः सुब्रमण्याय स्वामीनाथाय नमः दक्षिणामूर्तिये नमः नटराजने नमः नमो श्री भैरवरे नंदीमहेश्वराय नमः शिव पार्वतीये नमः ओम नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय पुरगंडघोषीरम्य विद्यं समर्पयामि मध्ये मध्ये पानीयं समर्पयामि अमृतपुत्रावतं समर्पयामि नीराजनं समर्पयामि नीराजनानन्तरमासमनीयं समर्पयामि भूमिवलसमायुक्तं नागवल्ली समेतं कर्पूर्णसूर्णसंयुक्तं प्रतिनुदां कर्पूरनीराजनं श्रीरमणं महर्षिः समर्पयामि नमो नारायण अरुणाचल भगवान ओम नमो भगवते श्री अरुणाचल श्री रमणाय नमः ओम नमो भगवते श्री अरुणाचल श्री रमणाय नमः ओम नमो भगवते श्री अरुणाचल श्री रमणाय नमः ओम नमः शिवाय नमः ओम नमः शिवाय नमः ओम नमः शिवाय नमः ओम शिवाय नमः ओम शिवाय नमः ओम शिवाय नमः ओमो वाय यजस्य राजमादत्ते यो राजोऽसन् राजो वा सोमे जने देवस्वामेदानीयं जीवन्ति वेदामन्दो वै देवानां स्वाहा स एवास्मै स्वां प्रयच्छन्ति तेन मनस्तवन्दे राजाय देवसु राजा भवतु तत्र दुर्यो वादञ्चन्द्रवादं हेमाविष्णुदुर्गां कुर्वन्ति तमेवानुवनवन्तं सत्यवादा सर्वं विभागं कर्पूरनीराजनं विरमणमर्शन्ति समर्पयामि कर्पूरं श्रीपार्वती समर्पयामि माँ शिवाय यो महां पुष्पं वेद पुष्पवान् ध्यावान् वसुमान् भवति चन्द्रमा वामां पुष्पं पुष्पं पुष्पवान् वेदवान् वसुमान् भवति ओं तद्ब्रह्मा ओं तद्वायु ओं तदात्मा ओं तत्सत्यम् ओम तत्सर्वं तत्पुरो नमः तत्कर्ति बोधे से गुहायां विश्वमुक्तिषु ब्रह्मग्रस्तं वसत्कारकं इंद्रस्तं रुद्रस्तं विष्णुस्तं ब्रह्मस्तं प्रजापति तथा बोधुच्छुतों सर्वं न कर्मणा न प्रजयागने नित्यानैके अमृतत्वमानसु परेण नाहं नितं गुहायां विप्राजते दत्तदेयो विसन्धि वेदांत विज्ञान से नित्यदाता संन्यास योगा तदे शुद्ध सत्वाः ते ब्रह्मलोके तु परान्तकाले परामृतात् परिमुच्यन्ते सर्वे अरं विभावं परमेश्वभूतं यत् पुण्डरीकं पुरमत्य सगुंसतं तत्रावित्तकर्मकगनं विशोगस् तस्मिन्नन्दद्यदुपासिद्ध्यं यो वेदादो स्वरप्रबुधो वेदान्तस्य च प्रतिष्ठितः तस्य प्रकृतिलीनस्य परसमयेश्वरः मन्त्रपुष्पं श्रीरमणमहर्षिः समर्पयामि कात्यायनी दुर्गावती देवानी समर्पयामि मन्त्रपुष्पं सुब्रह्मण्य स्वामी दक्षिणामूर्ति समर्पयामि मन्त्रपुष्पं नटराज भैरवे नन्दिमहेश्वराय मन्त्रपुष्पं श्रीमन् शिवपार्वती समर्पयामि ओम नमः शिवाय नमः नमः शिवाय नमः नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय नमः पापानि जन्मान्तरकृतानि तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति
Namo Ramana. This brings us to the closure of today's satsang with Raghavji. We shall meet next week, and I shall be sending you the details soon. Namo Ramana.